From the very beginning of this channel, I believe it's been a little over 10 years, there has always been a common theme. It was called God, Family, and Guns from the very beginning. And the only reason I called it that in the beginning, and I had no idea it would turn into what it turned into, was that those were the things I was focused on. At the time, I was a teacher, and I was concerned about things taking place with gun violence. And I started to investigate firearms on a much larger scale, really studying them out. And it became a passion of mine over the years. And then I decided, I remember one day I was talking to my wife and I said, it's frustrating because you maybe want to learn about a certain gun and you click on a video and then they're cursing, or it's like just 10 seconds of somebody shooting that gun, or maybe there's a half-naked woman shooting the gun. And half the time I'm like, I learned nothing from this. It seemed like it was all dark, honestly. And she said, well, if you think you can do better, why don't you do that? So I thought maybe I will, And then she kind of planted that seed, and it just stayed there, and I kept thinking about it. And what I decided to do was really talk about the three things I was most passionate about: God, my family, and guns. And these are the things that have been the primary focus of this channel. I spend less time talking about my family, of course, but a lot of that has been their choice. In the beginning, there was kind of this common family effort that looked to be a possibility, but they quickly were like, no. So I talk about family values, and it's still very important. Everything I do generally revolves around my family, even though you might not see them on camera. So this was very important to me, and I didn't know really how to glorify God in it. Like I think I did like 13 gun reviews, and then kind of posted them all, just boom, 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 to try to start it. And I thought, well, how am I glorifying God in all this? And I really didn't know. So I started taking prayer requests. I knew there was that piece. It was important. But then every now and then people would start asking questions in the comments, like, well, if you trust God, why do you need a gun? And I started talking about these things. Why should Christians be armed? Why should we carry guns? Most common question I got in the beginning was, what kind of gun would Jesus carry? And it was a joke. But I made a video on that. And that's actually, it's if you ever go to my channel and you're a new subscriber, that's the video you get. Because it's an important one. It's an incredibly important one. It talks to why Jesus was here and what he did. And it's an incredibly important video. And then there was a moment in time where I was a principal at a Christian school, head of school, and God just opened my eyes to the horrific behavior of churches. I just stared at it because I was in a county that was a country county, and I had a relationship with all the pastors, and what I saw was just gross. It was people advancing their own kingdoms, doing nothing to help their neighbor, only caring about what's within the four walls of their church, barely, competing with each other for people, trying to put on the best show they could possibly put on and make as much money as they could possibly make. And I saw nothing else. That's all I saw for 4 years. I just stared at it. And a righteous anger grew in me. And then God said, go through the book of Revelation verse by verse. So I started doing that. And then he said, now go through the book of Malachi verse by verse. And I questioned that. I was like, how do I have time for this stuff? The book of Malachi is a prophetic criticism of priests. And I knew it was important to happen. Like I had a righteous anger growing in me against the priests of this country. The pastors, the shepherds, just leading their sheep into hell. It just grew in me and grew in me. And So then I took a leap. I retired and just did this only. I just got out. I had to quit. I couldn't do it anymore. I miss teaching terribly. I mean, I know I do it here, but it's just being part of the community. You know, you kind of know all the kids and their families, and, you know, every time you're out, you run into people, you know, or that you've interacted with throughout the week. You got a lot of games to go to, like football. It was a fun thing. I miss this thing. But this is what God has me do, and I'm making this video really to kind of show you how, you know, where I'm at, how God got me here. But the reality is this video is primarily because a lot of people have asked, you know, because I talk about the end times a lot. Well, if you think it's the end times, why don't you just do spiritual videos? Like, why don't you just do spiritual videos? I mean, that sounds great. Like, I love talking about spiritual things. But this channel is a ministry. I can't even tell you how many times somebody has walked up to me out in the world or written me in an email saying that I came here for guns, but I got God. And that's really what it's about. It's people finding God and understanding the truth in His Word through a common love of a hobby of guns. Whether we talk about lawnmowers or vacations or rebuilding engines or whatever is your hobby. God has designed it. I couldn't have done this. Like, this is what He did. And now, you know, we are pumping out more spiritual content, but it's God's way of attracting people that He needs to attract for whatever reason. That's what this ministry is. So until God tells me to stop talking about guns, I'm going to keep talking about guns. And that's what this video is about. It's understanding why I do what I do. It's a ministry. It is literally a ministry. It is giving people the chance to find God and understand His Word, because maybe they were wondering about how good is a SIG P210 or something like that. And then suddenly they discover God, or they discover Him in a way they've never discovered Him, because that's something God has done in me through this channel too, is there's so much being said on this channel that I don't necessarily like to say. Just being honest. But when God says say it, I just say it. And that's just kind of the deal I have with them. So I share that with you because I believe on this channel there's a lot of things being said that people aren't saying. Nobody else is saying. There's truth in His Word, but they're still not saying it because they're advancing their own kingdom. It contradicts what they're trying to do in their own life, so they don't like to say these things. They don't like to hear these things. I don't like to say them, but it has to be said. It doesn't matter whether I like it or not. His Word is His Word. His thoughts are higher than mine. What I think and what I like does not matter. And that's something you get from this channel that you're definitely not going to get elsewhere, I believe.